Hello, and welcome to episode 186 of Prog Review. And today we've come to the end of the concept album thread that I've been working on. I know you're happy. You don't have to applaud. It's not that bad. If you can hear any noises in the background, it's because Verity's busy. I don't know if you can see that there. Do you want to wave to the camera, Verity? Say hello.
Hello.
So we have a little intruder over there. She's very busy. I'll stop doing that now, and I'll get on with the review. This is the big one. This is the last album in the sequence, and it's probably the most iconic and important album of its generation. In fact, I'd probably say it's probably the most important albums of the rock oeuvre. And in this case, if you're too thick to read the title or description, it is indeed Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band by the Beatles. It's the biggest band it's the biggest album even. That's what happens. I'm distracted. It's the biggest album by the biggest band in the world. This could be a bumpy ride. Naturally, I was intimidated about doing this video because, much of what I'm going to say has been said before, and it's hard to be critical of an album that has such cultural magnitude, the importance. So, the album itself was recorded at Abbey Road Studios between the 6th of December 1966 and the 21st of April 1967, and was released to the public on the 1st of June of that same year. It is cited as one of the first concept albums, though the actual album itself doesn't sustain anything of the concept on it. No. It doesn't tell a story or anything. It's not even thematic. It's a bit of a mixture. The initial idea came from Paul McCartney, who, like his bandmates, were tired of touring to the screaming masses and wondered what it was like if they had adopted, a new persona and became a different band. And so the idea was born that they'd play characters from the fictional Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, and the album would be presented so. This album is by someone else, not the Beatles. Hide behind a disguise, as it were. Peter Blake and his partner Jan Howarth were responsible for the now iconic record cover, based on an idea by Paul McCartney, and it cost £3,000 to produce, which is around £46,000 in today's money, making it the most expensive album covers of its time. Again, the sleeve sees the band, in disguise, flanked by models of the Beatles, and surrounded by popular icons that were chosen by the various band members. The inner gatefold sleeve opens and you see the band in character in their brightly coloured uniforms, each sporting facial hair to get them more into character. When it comes to the album, though, the concept is pretty quickly dismissed after the second song. Indeed, the title track and A Little Help From Your Friend, sung by Ringo Starr under the guise of Sgt. Pepper's band leader Billy Shears, and the reprise of the title song on the B-side of the record are the only evidence of there actually being a musical concept. Even John Lennon came out in interviews at the time saying as much, and even said that the songs on Sgt. Pepper's could have appeared on any other Beatles record at the time, and was pretty dismissive of the time. Despite this, the concept album tag has stuck, and I think Lennon was a little disingenuous in those interviews because the music on the album has a layer of complexity not seen on any previous Beatles album. In fact, Sir George Martin and his team of engineers developed new techniques in order to produce many tape effects required for the songs on the record, something that hadn't been done before. Now, while the album features the legendary Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, a song that was credited about lysergic acid diethylamide, I've been practicing that, Lennon's denial, claiming it was actually based on a picture by his son Julian. The album is regarded very much as a drug album, so much so that the BBC actually banned it, and that boggled my mind when I was researching this, that it was banned by the BBC. Because it features so many references to recreational drug use. Though McCartney has often claimed it was produced under a fug of pot, in one TV interview, producer Sir George Martin actually disputed the fact, and that the band were heavily into drugs at the time of the recording the album. He actually said, "No, you were quite straight at the time." Now, the complexity of the album can be credited largely to Sir George Martin and his team of bustling engineers who certainly made the most of the technology of the time, doing amazing work with which was basically a 4-track tape recorder, giving the results a sonic depth lacking on many other records of the time. The album opens with the sound of an audience and the band launching into the title track, which is a pretty standard rock and roll song, but it introduces the fictional band to the audience and sets up the introduction to, again, the fictional Billy Shears, Ringo Starr, who then sings with a little help from my friends. And that's a song which is like fingernails down a blackboard to me, solely due to the fact that we were forced to learn and sing it as children at school. And let nobody mention the version sung by Joe Cocker or the abortion put out by Wet 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 in the late 80s. Okay, you've been warned. Basically, this is the quirky little song that Ringo gets to sing, and I much prefer Octopus's Garden. And I'm often, when I'm in a pub, if I go to the jukebox, I'll slip that one on, to annoy the punters, except for when I'm Wyatt-in. You can look that one up, Wyatt-in. And then we're into Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, which almost defines the age, really. But to listen to it, it is a marvel of audio production and sound effects. Again, we're forced to sing. We were forced to sing this at school. Now, remember, I went to school in the 1970s when all the teachers were burnt-out hippies. Is it a drug song? Who cares? I've had dreams like this without the aid of any stimulants, so maybe Lennon got the idea after a nap, fueled by a particularly strong cup of Earl Grey. You never know. And then we're on to It's Getting Better, or Getting Better. Is it Getting Better? I don't know. Getting Better? It's I see this as a little ditty aimed at the great British whinger and our perennial ability to complain at just about anything. It's too cold, too hot, too dry, too wet, wrong kind of snow, ad infinitum. Now, this song turns that frown around and makes you realise that grumbling gets you nowhere in this world and life is as difficult as you want it to be. Again, there's some interesting things going on with the song. For example, at 1 minute 38 seconds, you can hear the drone of a sitar tucked into the mix. They're playing around there. And then the great rock and roll instrument, the harpsichord, is brought out for Fixin' a Hole, a song that for me is only saved by the joyous chorus and the backing vocals, which are quite clever. And then those lovable mop tops from Liverpool hit you with the most emotional invested song committed to vinyl. The kitchen sink drama put to music, strings and pizzicato notes punctuate the sweetly sour song of the generation gap. I'm talking about She's Leaving Home. It's very sad. It's almost like the other one. Know the other one? No. I'm just going to stare at the camera for a bit while I compose myself. Eleanor Rigby, that was the one. So it's just I can hear Moshi Monsters going on, and it's putting me off. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. This is followed by a song whose production should be lauded solely for its complexity. Indeed, being for the benefit of Mr. Kite, that was actually taken from an old poster, an old Victorian circus poster, is more surface over substance, and it shows what those masters of audio magic could do inside Abbey Road. Now, for me, the worst song on the album is Within You Without You. It's the one I tend to skip because it's pretentious rubbish and cultural vandalism. It's the second longest track on the album, and I find it just padding. It sticks out like a sore dick at an orgy. And I'm sorry for that, Georgia, I really am. It's not for me. It just doesn't work on the album. It just doesn't fit. Another song I was forced to sing as a child was When I'm 64, which is an incredibly brave song to write and record for England's leading boy band at the time. Now, can you imagine, is it Wrong Direction? Singing a song about incontinence and having trouble with their prostate gland. No, I can't imagine it either. But again, this is another marvel of studio production and shows that the Beatles can do, swing jazz too, and lots of clarinet on there. I think it's a lovely song, I really do, and it shows why Paul McCartney is the finest songwriter of his generation, and I think has more depth than Lennon. I know a lot of you are going to be throwing your shoes at the screen, but I really do believe that he wasn't afraid to write stuff like When I'm 64, whereas Lennon was, far too hip for that. The humour is kept for Lovely Rita, a song that is so typically British, a love song to a traffic warden. It's like phoning up the tax man for phone sex, isn't it? They're playing with the dynamism of the relationship between the parking warden and their victims. It's a very good example of humour, and it's almost Pythonesque in its execution, before the Pythons even existed. The scattering "Good morning, good morning" is almost a precursor to A Day in the Life, and the antithesis of Getting Better is kind of a downer. Someone almost disconnected from life. Again, the Stereo Boys get to go crazy with the odd FX with great humour. And the chicken squawk leads directly into a reprise of the title track. This time around, it's a little bit more rough and ready. And there's a little bit more rock and roll to it, if you will. And this leads us into probably the most important song on the album, probably the most important song of the Beatles' career, A Day in the Life. Again, this is part kitchen sink drama, part acid trip, part holding up a mirror to British society at that precise moment in time. And if you will indulge me, I say that it's the Beatles at their most progressive and inventive. In that one song, they showed you that it could do so much with a little bit of clever production. They can do so much. And the tumultuous ending, to me, sounds very much like the soundtrack to The End of the World, and still terrifies me to this very day. It's on that final chord at the end that says, it's going to be okay, and it saves it from being totally and utterly apocalyptic. And then it's over, apart from the silly run-out groove, and you've listened to one of the most important rock albums of all times, and you're expected to rate it with mere stars. How am I going to do that? But I'm going to. You know what I'm going to say. Without any shadow of a doubt, this is a 5 Henry the Horses out of 5 kind of album. That's 5 Henry the Horses out of 5. I would give it 10, but we don't do that kind of thing, and the battery light is flashing, so I've got to move on. So that's it, really. It's a strange concept album that isn't. It's more visually a concept album than musically. It's the Beatles playing with image rather than song. So I don't know if it even qualifies. It's kind of a cheat. I don't know. You tell me. Comments below. Is this a concept album, or were the Beatles just playing around with their image? And that's it, really. My name's been Darren Locke. I've been whittering on about the Beatles, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, and this is the end of the great concept album thread. Normal service will be resumed, and I've got some CDs here. I mean, there's a CD that needs to be reviewed, and we'll get back to normal, I guess. And with that, only one more thing to say, and that is Prog on.